Finding the Words is the 22nd episode of the second season of Family Matters. On the surface, this is a fairly quiet episode. There's no big Urkel invention, no slapstick chaos taking over the Winslow household. Instead, it leans into something Family Matters was actually very good at when it wanted to be. Emotional honesty filtered through warmth and restraint. And interestingly, this episode feels like a lighthearted counterpart to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's devastating Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse. Not a copy or a parody, but a thematic cousin that asks similar questions while landing in a very different emotional place. The episode opens with the arrival of Jimmy, a man who introduces himself as a childhood friend of Carl. Immediately, there's something off about this interaction. Jimmy talks like he and Carl go way back, but Carl very clearly does not remember him. And this isn't played for cruelty or embarrassment. Carl isn't mocking him or being dismissive, he's just confused. That subtle discomfort sets the tone for the rest of the episode. You know there's a story here, and you know it won't be a simple one. What's clever is that the episode lets Jimmy linger. He doesn't immediately explain himself. He hangs around just long enough to make everyone uneasy, and that unease mirrors the emotional weight he's carrying. Eventually, the truth comes out. Jimmy isn't just some old friend. He's actually Harriet and Rachel's estranged father, long presumed dead after falling out with their mother. That revelation reframes everything that came before it. Suddenly, Jimmy's awkwardness makes sense. His nervous attempts at connection aren't about nostalgia, but about guilt, absence, and a fear of rejection. And I really appreciate that the show doesn't turn this into a melodramatic bombshell. There's no screaming match, no immediate forgiveness, no instant reconciliation, just stunned silence, emotional recalibration, and people trying to, as the name suggests, find the right words. This is where the comparison to Lou Smith from The Fresh Prince becomes unavoidable. Lou is a selfish coward. He shows up for Will when it's convenient for him, and disappears the moment responsibility comes knocking. Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse is brutal because Lou never really changes. He just confirms that he's the same as he's always been. Jimmy, by contrast, is portrayed as well-intentioned and genuinely regretful. He didn't disappear out of indifference. He disappeared out of failure, out of being mentally unequipped to handle conflict, shame, and the consequences. That doesn't excuse his absence. The episode is careful not to let him off the hook, but it does allow him humanity and even a chance for redemption. And that's the key difference. Where Fresh Prince is about the finality of disappointment, Family Matters is about the possibility, however fragile, of understanding. Harriet and Rachel's reactions are especially well handled. Harriet specifically feels like the emotional anchor of the episode. She's not eager to forgive, but she's not cruel either. There's a pain there, yes, but also curiosity, a need to understand why things happened the way they did. Rachel's response is more subdued, but just as important. She represents the quiet grief, the version of abandonment that doesn't explode outward, but settles into unanswered questions. The episode respects both reactions. It doesn't tell us there's a correct way to respond to an absent parent. It just lets the feelings exist. Despite the heavy subject matter, the episode remains surprisingly light on its feet. There are moments of levity, gentle humor, and warmth that keep it from becoming mentally suffocating. That's part of why this works so well as a counterbalance to Fresh Prince. Finding the Words isn't trying to emotionally disembowel you. It's trying to sit with you, to say, this is complicated, and that's okay. Jimmy isn't framed as a villain, but he isn't framed as a hero either. He's a flawed man who wants to do better. And the episode is honest about how difficult that actually is. Finding the Words may not be one of Family Matters' most iconic episodes, but it's one of its most sincere. It tackles estrangement, parental absence, and reconciliation with nuance, restraint, and compassion, without undermining the pain that the absence causes. It doesn't promise neat resolutions. It doesn't offer grand speeches. It just allows space for conversation, accountability, and the possibility of healing. For that reason, I'd give this episode a solid 7 out of 10. Not perfect, not unforgettable, but thoughtful, heartfelt, and quietly effective in a way that lingers longer than you might expect. And sometimes, finding the words is more important than having the answers.